Welcome back to another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son George. I was my mother's caregiver after she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Unfortunately, she passed on 1/1/2020, but we started Together for Sharon.com in her memory. Today's guest is somebody special, not just to me, but to many furry friends too. I smiled when I got an opportunity a year ago. It's amazing how time flies, but that he agreed to do an interview with us. I just think that during my mother's struggle, we didn't have the option for animal therapy. And I think even if we could just get a little bit of a smile on those battling Parkinson's for a moment, it really would change their life forever. And I just commend him and thank him for all he does. And I wanted to welcome Jeff from Can Do Canines, which I love. We'll get to all that to the show. Thanks, Jeff, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me again.
No, I appreciate it. And again, I told my wife 100 times today how excited I was to talk. Unfortunately, I apologize to everyone. I was going to surprise him and ask to have a dog run by, but we didn't plan my planning. And my dog I actually put in the other room because she's barking. We have two. We have a little golden doodle, which is louder than the big husky, which don't ask.
It's kind of how it works. We're used to barking here, so it won't bother me.
I'm really excited, not just to talk about the things you do, but I could tell you I've been through a rough summer. I had several surgeries, but the only moment I really kind of smiled was when my dog came over to the bed, even though I was kind of couldn't move, put her paws up on the bed. She's big, and then just licked me. It's just amazing during the toughest times what animals can do.
Yep.
And I think what you do not only inspires me, but should be in every household in the country and the world. So again, maybe you could start us off just a little bit about yourself. And I know we're focusing on Parkinson's here, but also how inspiring and helpful the animals can be for anyone with any disease and the caregivers too.
Sure. No, that's great. So just a little bit of background on me. I came into this industry, the assistance dog industry, from a life in law and government and politics. So this is very new for me about 4 years ago. And just fell in love with what I do and with this organization. And there are a lot of organizations like us around the world. Um, we So Can Do Canines has been around for 35 years, and we raise and train assistance dogs for people with disabilities, several different types of disabilities, but one is people who have mobility issues, and we serve a lot of Parkinson's clients where we will match them with a dog that will then be devoted to them for the rest of that team's life, whether it's the dog or the person that goes or retires first, and really just becomes an extension of that person and changes their life in the most fundamental of ways. We That's just the funnest thing about the job, other than working with dogs, is that we get to hear from clients about how this dog just stepped in and changed the life of both the person with Parkinson's and oftentimes their entire family.
Well, it must be great to go in from a kind of tough, negative world where we know
Yeah,
it's a big night, but moving and shifting to something beautiful, and that, you might get licked a little, but not hurt, not be.
that's right.
The shift from politics to dog and animals is really, I think it's also probably keeps you smiling. Where the other one, I left the world of politics myself because it's just, I don't know what's happening. We might need to give everyone in politics a dog. Maybe that'll change.
Right.
But I wanted also, from that, I wanted to really talk about how important it is for not just individuals again with Parkinson's, but all individuals with different diseases to have that animal in their life. I know, unfortunately, my mother, she actually begged and begged for an animal to buy
Hmm.
or to adopt, but we knew that her health was kind of declining. So it was very difficult at that point to really have that because you have to care for them. So maybe you could touch, and I'm going to share the website now, but a bit about what's the responsibilities like, or is it, what are the, not session, but does someone borrow the animal for a long period? Is it short? Is it just a short visit? I'm just curious because we actually had the last year long-term hospice in Florida was a new program, but they had animal therapy on the brochure, but never, it was not kind of happening anymore, which was kind of sad.
Yeah, no, that is. So with us, we train, we spend about 2 to 3 years training a specific dog for a specific person. And then we train that client and the dog together based upon that person's needs. And then that person or that dog then goes home and spends the rest of the dog's life with that person and that person's family. So it's long term, and it's really for the life of the dog. And as I mentioned, we serve 5 different types of disabilities or diseases, but with respect to someone with Parkinson's, the dog will open doors, open drawers, retrieve things. If something is dropped, they'll pick it up so that the person doesn't risk a fall, or if they're in a chair and need something, the dog will go get it for them so they don't have to get up and move around. They do housework, they do laundry. They'll load the clothes into the washer, they'll take the clothes out of the dryer, put it into a laundry basket and drag the basket to wherever it needs to go. Um, they can help take off socks. They can help pull, a jacket or a shirt off, pull the sleeve off, take off shoes, mittens, things like that. They can help steady a person who maybe is a little unsteady in their walking. And then they can get help. So if, someone falls, for example, or something is wrong and they're unable to get help, the dog can go find someone else in the house, or if no one else is in the house, they'll have a dedicated button to push that will then call either a family member who is always on alert, or even 911 if it's an emergency. And then you throw on top of those actual trained physical tasks, just the support that a dog brings to someone has some troubles in life. And it's really just life-changing. They're amazing.
It sounds incredible, and I just want everyone to go to candocanines.org, support this amazing organization and Jeff and all he does. And you can see if you click, and feel free to direct me if you'd like to anything that I might miss. But you can have different dogs, as you mentioned, for mobility, autism, seizure, diabetes. Let's see some of them, facility dogs. And here's a beautiful one. Can make our own sounds of bark bark so that we can pretend that they're. But here, actually, if you don't mind, let me.
Yep.
I'll try and mute the voice, but
Yeah, facility dogs, that is a newer program for us,
all right, there you
where we have dogs that go into, we have a couple of different children's hospitals in Minnesota, and the dogs, that is their job, to go into work every day and help patients, kids who maybe are frightened of something, or need PT help, physical therapy help, those sorts of things. It's pretty cool, and it's something that's kind of new for us.
go. I love that. And is there a cost, or how does that work out for individuals listening? And also, how can they reach you?
Yeah, so you can find us at our website, candocanines.org. And if you prefer to call, the number is on there. We serve Minnesota and Wisconsin. So outside of that, there are organizations like us around the country. And you can always go to a site called Assistance Dogs International to find a service dog organization that could help you if you're not in Minnesota or Wisconsin. But here, we charge a $50 application fee, but there are no other costs. And we give the dogs to our clients once they are trained together free of charge. We estimate it costs about $45,000 to train each of these dogs. But we'll never charge, because that's impossible for most people to afford even a portion of that cost. And we don't want
Sorry.
income to be a barrier to somebody being able to have one of these amazing dogs in their lives.
I also love that you have a YouTube channel, so everyone also please go to their YouTube channel. I think it linked from the website. I saw
Yep.
it. Yeah, it was on it early, maybe about, but feel free to, take your time, scroll through. I love our story is very important, because everybody basically has a journey and story. Maybe you could touch on someone, how could we actually help you raise money too, to help these programs? I'm sad because it's not in Florida, but
Yeah.
said they might have something, but I reached out to you because you really made an impact for me in my life. So that's why I was so excited again to talk. And also, I actually am a professor and I teach in a jail. So this is
Oh, you do?
yeah, it's a
I didn't know
beautiful
that.
program. So this is just
Yeah. So our prison program is just amazing. We have 8 different prison partners. You see them listed there in Minnesota and Wisconsin. They're both federal and state prisons, and each of them has a program and essentially a wing of the prison that is dedicated to helping us train these dogs. And so specially chosen teams of inmates. So there's 2 inmates, inmate handlers to 1 dog, and the dog will go there for 6 months, and the inmates then that dog will live with those inmates in their cell, and they will train them and spend almost their entire day every single day with those dogs. And then we go in as professional trainers, and you see right here, that was an example of a training class where one of our staff members was there, right there, helping these men, and we also are in a women's prison, train the dogs. And it's such a cool win-win because it's a huge benefit to the prisons and to the inmates. And it's a huge benefit to us because they do amazing work for us.
Thank you. And also, what is the process for training a dog? We tried with mine. We paid someone. I didn't believe in the tasers. They actually tried that, but
Oh,
I think
yeah.
I would ever do it again. They kind of don't. They'll sit for 4 seconds, and then that's the end of that. They run.
Yeah. Yeah, so our training lasts for about 2.5 years, as I mentioned. So we have a birthing facility that's our second campus in Minnesota, and the puppies are birthed there. They're born there, and they spend the first 5 weeks in that facility, immediately getting attention every single day to help them become someday to become assistance dogs. And then at about 5 weeks, they go to one of our weaning prisons. We have 2 weaning prisons, and that's where over the course of 5 weeks, the puppies are weaned from the mother very slowly over that 5 week period. And then the dogs go to volunteer homes. And so we have volunteers who spend anywhere from a few days to a year and a half raising these dogs. They bring them in for group training and work with them every day. The biggest role for those volunteers is not to train the dog's specific skills. We will do that later with our professional trainers, but is to help them learn very basic obedience training, and more importantly, to socialize them to the outside world, because they will have their vests, their capes, so they'll be able to bring them anywhere a client will, so they can get them used to going to Home Depot and going to the doctor's office and maybe going to school or church or the grocery store. And then those dogs also will spend about 6 more months in one of our training prisons, getting pretty intense training and love from those inmate handlers. And then at right around 2 to 2.5 years, those dogs leave their volunteer home and they come into our training facility here in Minnesota and spend several months with our professional trainers who work with them every day and try to figure out, what is this dog good at and what does this dog love to do? And thereby deciding, we say it's a lot like college. They're trying to figure out what their major is and what they want to do with their lives. And they let us know, well, I'd be a great mobility dog, or I'd be a great autism dog, or a diabetes dog. And then we match them with a client. And the client then is trained one-on-one with that dog for several more weeks. And then that's usually right around, it's about 2.5 to maybe 3 years that those dogs then will go home with their client and spend the rest of their life with them.
And is there a specific breed? I see a lot. It looks like golden retrievers, and also I do love
Yep.
that you do so many community events. So maybe you could touch on the type of breed, and then we can
Yeah.
talk a little bit about your events.
Yep. We breed almost all of our own dogs. We do have some that are donated to us. We try to rescue a dog or two every year, but the vast majority we breed ourselves, and they're all labs or lab mixes. We have a lot of golden lab mixes. We have just found that the personality of labs and goldens is perfect for an assistance dog, because number one, they're very food motivated, so they're easy to train with only positive reinforcement, never any punishment. And they want to please. They like to work. They want to please. They just want to make you happy. And that's what gives them joy. We do sometimes have dogs, well, more than sometimes, I'd say about 25% of our dogs that are bred for this purpose and go through our system don't end up becoming service dogs, because they might have a health issue that makes it too hard, or they might just have a personality that doesn't fit a service dog. They don't want to work. They want to sit on the couch and cuddle. And we're not going to ask that dog or make that dog become a service dog because that dog won't get joy out of it. And we think this is a mutually beneficial relationship. So that's kind of the process and the breed that we most often use. And then our events, we have three big fundraising events every year. One is actually this weekend. It's called the Woofaroo.
Oh,
It's at the bottom of that list, and it's just a big carnival and a fundraising walk. But we have graduations 3 times a year, and that's when it's the end of the process for our teams. They've been trained together. The dog has gone home with the person, is now working with that person, and now we have them come for graduation. There's usually, somewhere between 10 and 20 graduates, and then all their family and friends come, and it's like a big graduation in
mm,
our facility, and it's really the most special event that we have because it's very moving, and it's just fun to hear from the clients how these dogs, even though they've maybe only had them for a few weeks, have already changed their lives.
thank you. And everyone, again, please go to candocanines.org. You'll see so much incredible information. I have a different shift to people with Parkinson's. Can you tell us maybe a story or maybe an experience where someone before they were able to even learn about your organization, and then from the time they first saw their laid eyes on the dog to the time they had to kind of to leave, but maybe you can tell us a little bit about the effect the animal might have on somebody specifically with Parkinson's, because the show is geared towards
Yep.
more the Parkinson's community.
Yeah, no, I can because as I mentioned, we have had several Parkinson's patients or clients in the last few years, and I can think of a couple in particular. Um, One of them, his dog is named Laverne. Laverne has a sister who's also a service dog named Shirley, but Laverne was his dog, and was a teacher in public schools for many years. He's retired now. I'm guessing he's in his mid 60s. And he got Laverne a few years ago when the effects of his Parkinson's weren't terribly noticeable. He knew what was coming. And now that it's hit him much harder, the last time I saw him, it was markedly different. But he was telling me that Laverne makes it possible for him to still be independent in a way that there's absolutely no chance he could have been without her. So he's married, and he and his wife are together in the same home. But he said without Laverne, his wife would never be able to leave without him. It wouldn't be possible unless another person would come and take care of him because he has episodes that affect him, and if he might not be able to call 911 if something were to happen. And he's able to have independence. His wife is able to have independence now and not worry about him 24 hours a day. And she can go do the things that she maybe wouldn't otherwise be able to do because she knows that the dog is there, his partner is there to take care of him. And if something goes wrong, she'll alert his wife to that. So it's pretty cool, and it's pretty fundamental how it has changed their life and the lives of their family. And then I had another fellow who um, he he was telling me kind of the same story, how his he was a bit younger, and he talked about how his kids, he was never able to really be much of a dad to his kids. He felt like his kids were always babysitting him. And once he got the dog, his kids, he could be more like a dad to them, and that how much that meant to him because they didn't have to constantly be watching over him and helping him, and as he put it, babysitting him because the dog took care of things for him. So it's pretty amazing.
Are there certain qualifications of the individual who might want to, go in the program or use one of the service animals? Because I imagine, my mother, if she had lived alone, at a certain time wouldn't have been able to handle herself and the dog. So wonder if there's kind of not qualifications, but certain things that person with Parkinson's might have to kind of provide. Or, I don't want to see animals out there that are neglected either.
Right.
So that's an important, like that gentleman you mentioned had a spouse, which is great. My mother didn't. She lived alone until the last 4 years when we had to all kind of surround her and have
Yeah.
caregivers there. But I'm just curious, is there a process where unfortunately you might have to turn someone down?
Yeah, no, and that definitely happens. I mean, it has to be the right match both for the person and for the dog. And so for people who have a condition like Parkinson's, where you're pretty sure it's going to get progressively worse, and there will come a time where the person can't take care of the dog, they would need to have other support, obviously, that was living with them. If we do children with autism. Well, we're not going to rely upon the child to take care of the dog, so we need to make sure that they have a parent in the house who's able to take care of the dog and care for the dog, because we want, the dogs are working dogs, but they also get to be dogs and just, um, be pampered and cared for like any other pet would, when they're not working. So yeah, those can be tough calls, because we obviously we turn down clients because it's not the right fit, or maybe the dog can't do for them what they need, and we don't think we could make a successful match. And occasionally it will happen that there's just not enough of a support network to make sure that the dog and the person both benefit from the relationship. But more often than not, we're able to figure something out with a potential client there.
I mean, I think what you do is so fascinating, and oddly, I think we need more awareness because some don't, I guess they're so immersed or in the fight, the battle with the disease, that they don't even, they're just looking towards medicines and maybe their own therapy, like physical, but no one, I don't think, thinks enough about animal therapy. Maybe it's, we need to try to drive this show home, everyone listening, that this really could change your life and others around you. And again, I wish we had it because I think it would have brought a smile to my mother's face.
Yeah.
She had animals throughout her whole life, but at a certain point she couldn't. But I just wish, we more of you out there. So I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Well, and for someone in your mom's situation who wouldn't have the live-in support necessary for a full-time service dog, that is where an emotional support dog or an emotional support animal, or maybe a therapy dog could come in, that doesn't necessarily live with the person, but comes and visits on a regular basis just to provide. In those cases, it's not to provide the physical tasks that an assistance dog will provide, but to provide really the mental health help that any dog can provide, because they're good at that.
Yeah, I wonder how we could, maybe you've already looked into it, but duplicate this throughout the nation, because I personally, even doing all this advocacy, never see anything with animals at all. And maybe I'm just still not finding it, but it should be much easier. Even
Yeah.
I commend you and enjoy all your social media. I would share everything I can so people are aware that I just thinking about it right here now, this moment, I don't see much for animals, even at these different big organizations for Parkinson's events, which is why I am so again grateful to have you today. And wanted to shift now a little bit more, not away from the dogs because we'll pretend they're at our feet right now looking up, but a little bit more about you. Maybe you could tell us 3 words that describe who you are.
Oh, go. I would say I'm curious. I'm always curious. Another word would be I'm not sure if adventurous is the right word, but I constantly want to be doing something new and different, and I don't want to get into a rut. And probably determined. I don't easily give up, which has been fun in this job because we're trying a lot of new things, and new things don't always work. And so you keep trying until you make them work, or you decide at some point, okay, that was a great idea, but it didn't pan out. But we're gonna keep trying to figure out new ways of doing things.
I think I have to add number 4, which is patience, because I
Yeah.
imagine to have, even training an animal is not easy. Like, I don't think I can't do it. And
Yeah. Yeah,
definitely,
and I don't do much training myself. I leave that to our training professionals. But as a dog owner,
yeah.
um, and as a parent of two boys, yeah, patience, it's probably not my greatest strength, but maybe I can continue to work on that one, I would say.
What is one moment or most memorable moment that stands out through most of your work or all of it so far with awareness that you could share?
Yeah, so here, I'll just share a story that will forever stick with me, because it helped me recognize the impact that just the fundamental impact that these dogs have. It was with a mother of a child with autism, and we had placed a dog with that little boy. He was 7 or 8 years old, and he had pretty severe autism. And the life, I remember talking to the family before we placed the dog, and their life was really very, very difficult. They couldn't go out and do anything because he was just not, they couldn't handle this little boy. And so we matched up the dog. And I don't know, 2, 3 months later, I was talking to her, and she said, this dog has changed our life in a positive way because now we can go out and do things because the boy is tethered to the dog. He can't run away. And he doesn't seem to want to run away anymore. But also this dog can keep him calm where he wouldn't be able to before. So she said that's been wonderful, but it doesn't compare to how the dog has somehow changed her son, because he wouldn't talk to people before, and now he wants to talk to people about the dog. He wouldn't leave the house before, and now he wants to, as long as the dog is with him. He didn't have any friends, and now he does because of the dog. And she said that this dog rescued a little boy who was trapped inside our son that we didn't even know existed, and saved our family. And that's just so foreign to me because I've never been in a situation where I needed someone or something to step in and save my family. But they were in that position through no fault of their own. And this amazing dog stepped in and did it. And, it was partly because of the volunteers who worked with them, and the inmate handlers and our staff and our donors. But the dog in the end was the entity that made it happen. And it's, I don't know, that will always stand out to me as a dad, especially understanding how a dog can just fundamentally change the trajectory of an entire family.
That's beautiful. I appreciate you sharing it. And this one, I try to bring out those behind the scenes because I know you're the spokesperson and doing amazing things, but I still want to send love and support to the people behind the scenes in your life and all the staff at the Do Canines. We thank them too. But, dealing with different people, whether Parkinson's or other tough situations, autism, it's not always easy. So I'm just curious who helps you during times of struggle. And also, I was a caregiver. What tips could you give those listening who are caregivers?
Well, family for me is, more than anything, what it comes down to. I have a wife of 31 years, and we have two grown boys now. At least physically, they're grown. Mentally, we still have a little ways to go. They'll be boys till they're 50, just like me. So I rely heavily on that. I also rely very heavily on my faith, and that to me, without that, some of the trials in life would seem a lot bigger than they really do to me. And I would say for caregivers, my mom had Parkinson's before she passed. She died of cancer in the end, and the Parkinson's never got to the phase where it affected her daily life. It was more of a nuisance, and something else intervened when she was too young and she passed away. But having been and then having watched my wife and have both of her parents die of Alzheimer's recently, you just have to find that support network, whether it's a family, whether it's someone in your faith community, whether it's a neighbor or just a friend who you can just kind of unload on sometimes, for lack of a better term, who will just sit and listen and won't even necessarily share advice of any sort, but just will have a sympathetic ear and be willing to let you share maybe some of the frustrations that you wouldn't share with other people because you almost feel guilty about that frustration a little bit. But it's there and it's real and it's human. And so having a friend or family member who will just sit and listen to that and not be judgmental, I think is huge.
I think you're doing inspiring work. And also, we send our love to you and your family and the staff, and also dedicate today a memory of your mother.
Thanks.
We will never let her be forgotten either. So thank you. Sometimes we're all helping so many other individuals that we need a minute to also reflect and thank those around us, which I don't do enough,
Yep.
unfortunately.
No, me neither. It's just, I totally get that.
And the next important area is there anything looking back probably about I know you, I don't know if you were doing it 10 years. I know you said it's been 4, but I'm sure you volunteer, but anything you would have done differently looking back the last 10 years or several years with awareness or what you're doing today?
Um, Here in the last 4 years or 3 years and 10 months, however long it's been here, um, I would say that as an organization, we've grown, but we're really kind of on the precipice of some very significant growth. Um, and I probably would have started that process a little bit earlier, because I think to grow, there are always pains with growing and there are always fears with growing. And I think the longer you can, the more time you can spend preparing people for that growth, the better. So I think I would have started that earlier. On the bigger picture of the last 10 years, honestly, I would say that I probably would have left my past professional life earlier and started doing something like this, because it's maybe not quite as lucrative, but it's so much more meaningful. And I would have done it earlier had I had the chance. I
If you had one wish granted, or we could have one wish in the whole world granted, what would that be?
oh my gosh, that's a tough one. Um,
As long as I don't get you crying, because that's happened before. Not with this question, but
well, I'm going to relate it rather than the broad world. I'm going to think of in this role. Um, I mean, the wish that I would have is that there would be enough organizations like us that everybody whose life could be changed by one of these dogs could have one, because we're serving, you know, 1/10 of 1% of the people that could benefit from this in our area, and then you spread that worldwide, and there are just um, the opportunity is so great. It's just that the supply isn't there because it's pretty labor intensive and expensive to do. So I guess my wish would be that at least more people would get the benefit of these amazing dogs.
thank you. I mean, I have so many questions. I'm trying to not keep you all night, but it must be tough though sometime. I know I had to, sadly put 2 dogs in my life down. That must be a tough job at that point when you fall in love with these animals, you
Yeah.
raise them, you see them do such incredible things. And obviously we all, have time here and then but animals unfortunately have less time than us. I look at my little dog now and it's like, so sadly, I think of how long she'll have, even though she's not too old. Is that tough, on a daily basis since you have so many? It's not, I have 1 or 2 here and that's a long
Yeah.
10 years, but to have thousands over the years must be
Yeah.
hard. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. Although in some ways it might be easier for us because we just constantly have
Yeah.
dogs. And so, one will go be with a client for 10 years or 11 years or 12 years and die. That's painful for those who trained the dog and were supporting that team. But in that time, we've had so many more dogs come into our lives that in some ways it probably makes it easier for us. For the clients, they're not just losing a dog and a pet and a member of their family like what happens to us when our dog dies. They're actually losing their partner in life who has changed their life so much. So that can be really hard. And we have a waiting list, and we always place at the top of our waiting list clients whose dog has died and now they want another dog. And so, our waiting list can be anywhere from a year to 4 years. But a successor client, someone whose dog has passed away or retired, they move to the top of the list. We like to give them a little bit of time because you just need a little bit of time to kind of cope with losing your first partner. But then usually most of them want a successor dog, and usually within a few months we're able to find the right match for them. But it is particularly hard for somebody whose service dog passes away because it's more than just a pet for them.
And I just think as you're talking of all these interesting areas that I never had the opportunity to learn, so I appreciate your honesty and
Yeah.
all that you do. as we wrap up, here's a fun one. If you were asked to write a script to a movie about your life story, what would you call it? And it might need an animal in there.
Um, God, I don't know what the name would be, but it would have something to do with adventure and I've had a lot of I, I've had a lot of changes in my life, both on the political side and on the business side, and now with this, which is just a 180-degree turn for me. So I'd have to think about the name, but it would be something about just constantly having a new adventure in your life, which I love. And usually after 3 or 4 years, I'm ready to move on. But I'm going to stick with this one for a while longer because it's just so awesome, and we got a lot of new things that we're just launching now.
I'll buy the first movie ticket when it comes out.
Thanks.
And the final question is, if you could leave the Parkinson's community today with some words of encouragement, what would they be?
To just know that there is support out there that you probably don't know about. I think in the world of assistance dogs, the vast majority of people with Parkinson's or who have a family member with Parkinson's wouldn't have the first clue that a dog could change their life. And it's not just us. There are probably so many other resources and people that are out there that are willing to help. Um, know that they're out there, and it might take a little research work, but somebody will be able to help and support in ways that maybe you didn't expect.
Well, I thank you for your time, and please everyone support Jeff and Can Do Canines by going to www.candocanines.org. And again, not to get in out of our topics, but I think you're doing God's work because you are really certainly changing so many lives in tough times. Again, try to make this show somewhat, happy and uplifting. Because when I think of a dog, I think of wagging tails and
Yep.
floppy ears. But I remember some of the toughest times for my mother. But when we brought our little dog over, she always smiled, and that changed her world and life, even for the short time in the day when she, could smile. So I
Yep.
really appreciate what you do. We have a little message for you and everyone listening. We love you. We support you. We care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I, along with Jeff, will advocate for you. And together, I feel our voices are so much stronger. And I always say I'm just getting started, even though I'm not, because when we met or I found your amazing organization a year ago more, it kind of inspired me to keep fighting and to want the world to know about what you do and what your staff does on a daily basis. I think, again, we need more of this everywhere. I wish it would kind of like spread like wildfire, even though I don't want any fires, because I just think it really, I'll be biased on purpose. I think it really does make a huge difference. And I just feel people might be missing out. So everyone listening again, please share this mainly just for awareness, because even if Jeff can't reach you, maybe he could help you find something similar in your location. And there's no shortage of animals who love you and that want to be in the home no matter what fight you're going through. And I think together we can all make everyone smile just a little bit. So thank you again, Jeff. Really, your time
Thanks,
and
George.
friendship means the world. And hope this is not the end, because maybe next time we can come zoom into one of your live events and show some
Yeah.
dogs. And I love to, we just started doing that because I love these talks, but imagine having the dogs barking and running around even for 10 minutes at an event. I think it just kind of changes the whole world
Yeah.
virtual. And it's cool that we have an opportunity to do that. So again, thanks everyone for listening. Thank you, Jeff, and everyone, please share this. I feel this conversation can't end until we find a cure for Parkinson, but also the animal therapy is such an incredible thing, not just for Parkinson, but for really everything. So no matter what, even though I feel confident we'll find a cure, you can still have Jeff's services and his credible support for so many other things. I mean, just some days I'm advocating 24/7. I wish I had a Jeff here talking and showing some of the dogs. I bet you I'd smile a little more too. So
Yeah.
again, I just want to thank you for your time, and it's really just been an honor. Thanks again.
Yeah. Thank you, George. Good to talk again.
Thanks everyone also for listening. Please stay tuned. We have so much more to come. And remember, till we find a cure for Parkinson's, I'll be fighting right by your side. We love you and we send love. And until the cure is at our doorsteps, we have a lot of work to do. So thanks again, everyone.